Welcome to the 6 Mile Cypress Slough Preserve, a natural jewel nestled in Lee County, Florida, and an exemplary site for the Florida Master Naturalist Program's Freshwater Systems Module. As we step into the preserve's boardwalks, we embark on an educational journey through a quintessential slough, exploring the complexities and wonders of these unique ecosystems. You will learn about critical roles wetlands play in our environment, from flood control to water purification, and the influence of human activity on these delicate systems. The preserve, with its 3,500 acres of wetland and upland ecosystems, is a living classroom where the history and culture merge with science and stewardship. As we navigate through this lush landscape, we invite you to discover the intrinsic values of Florida's freshwater systems and to be inspired by the promise of conservation and sustainability. Join us as we delve into the splendors of the slough and the educational adventure that the University of Florida's Florida Master Naturalist Program offers. Be part of this immersive experience, where every path leads to new knowledge and a deeper appreciation for the natural world. In the deeper waters of understanding, the 6 Mile Cypress Slough Preserve stands as a beacon of learning for the Freshwater Systems Module of the Florida Master Naturalist Program. A slough, with its tranquil waters weaving through the landscape, serves as a corridor of life and a focal point of our studies. Comprising an impressive expanse of over 3,500 acres, the preserve is a confluence of wetland and upland ecosystems. Its seasonal transformation from a parched haven to a waterlogged wonderland exemplifies the resilience and adaptability of slough wetlands. These shifts reflect not just natural cycles, but also the rich cultural history of human interaction with the land. The slough's role in Florida's freshwater narrative is multifaceted. It acts as a natural filter, a haven for biodiversity, and a buffer against climatic extremes. As we explore the preserve, we touch upon the delicate interdependence between these waterways and the communities that draw life from them. We discuss the ecological significance of sloughs and flood control, their contribution to water clarity, and their function as aquifer recharge zones. Diving into the historical context, we recount the slough's importance to the indigenous peoples, early settlers, and modern Floridians alike. We explore the evolution of land use around the slough, how it has been shaped by agriculture, urban development, and conservation efforts. Our conversation also addresses the challenges posed by the invasive species, pollution, and climate change. The educational scope of the Florida Master Naturalist Program's module extends to understanding the policies that protect these waterways. We discuss the science that informs watershed management and the community actions that support wetland restoration and protection. As students of the Florida Master Naturalist Program, we not only study the ecological and hydrological aspects of sloughs, but also engage with the broader implications for society. We learn to appreciate the necessity of sustainable practices and the value of community engagement in preserving these ecosystems. This segment underscores the importance of education in fostering a culture of environmental stewardship. We invite you to continue this journey with us, to learn, to explore, and to act. By signing up for the Florida Master Naturalist Program's Freshwater Systems Module, you take a significant step towards safeguarding the wonders of Florida's waterways. The path forward will take us on an in-depth look at the roles of plants and animals in the coming segments. Our exploration is far from over. It is an ongoing narrative that weaves through the past, informs the present, and shapes the future of Florida's freshwater systems.
We are now at Wood Duck Pond. This area of low elevation remains wet even during the dry season. Many different animal species like to hang out at Wood Duck Pond. Here you can see some brownish material floating between the green leaves. This is periphyton. This spongy, soggy material is actually a community of organisms that is very important to the slough. Frogs, aquatic insects, snails, and fish feed on it. Periphyton is also important to many plants of the wet prairie. It also helps with water quality and provides a habitat for burrowing creatures. Periphyton has many superpowers. It's fall in the slough, and here you can see a juvenile water moccasin swimming through the cypress needles that have dropped from the trees. The water moccasin is also known as the cottonmouth, and it loves this habitat. You can see the distinct pattern of light and dark brown crossbands. It will get darker as it matures. This snake is venomous and should be avoided. A water moccasin is a carnivore that will eat anything. Here in the slough, this snake will go after the resident fish, frogs, small turtles, baby gators, and even other snakes. If you look closely, you can see a green heron perching on the branches of this tree. They like to hide in the vegetation, and the only reason I was able to spot him was because of the loud ski-ow sound. The green heron can be identified by its long dagger-like beak and the green coloring on its back and head. They love the wet habitat of the slough and feed mostly on fish in this pond. Look through the floating spatterdock and you will see a wood duck with its characteristic white coloring around the eyes. You can tell that this one is a female because of its brownish gray coloring. The wood duck is very hard to find in this forested wetland. They love to feed on the aquatic plants and the acorns that fall from the red maple trees into the pond. We are still at Wood Duck Pond. If you look carefully between the branches of the trees, you can see a black-crowned night heron. He is tucked away between the air plants in the typical hunch-over position. He has a dark crown and a dark back with a light gray body. Even though they are more active at night, they do come out to forage during the day. They are opportunistic feeders that eat many of the animals that feed on periphyton, like insects and fish. They also eat snakes, turtles, and eggs that are found throughout the slough. Even though there don't seem to be any gators around today, night herons need to be very careful because gators frequently make a meal out of herons. Wood Duck Pond is very busy today. Here you will see a Florida red-bellied cooter swimming through the pond. You can see the distinctive red tinged marks on this water turtle. This turtle is an herbivore who loves to feed on floating plants. Here he is feeding on spatterdock, a native floating plant with a yellow flower that does not fully bloom and looks half opened. The young turtles will also feed on many of the insects found in periphyton. The red-bellied cooter likes to spend its days basking on logs. They sometimes lay their eggs in the nest mounds of alligators. Just like the heron, the red-belly needs to keep an eye out for gators because they also like to eat these water turtles. Here we have the American alligator. When most people think of wetlands in Florida, they think of the alligator. Alligators are a keystone species. That means they serve a vital ecological role in the wetland environment. For example, alligators make holes which provide a refuge not just for the alligator, but also for fish and other wetland species. These species, like birds, fish, and amphibians, then provide a food source for the alligator. The alligator is the apex predator at the top of the food chain in the wetland environment. So, even though alligators sometimes get a bad rap, they are the engineers of the wetlands, helping to maintain this healthy slough.
In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks. John Muir. In the full sun and well-drained soil of the flat woods near wet lowlands grows the slash pine, so named for slashes, or swampy ground overgrown with trees and bushes. Slash, or swamp pine, has a true cone fruit with seeds that the squirrels and wild turkeys feast upon. The name slash can also represent the slashes made on the tree to retrieve turpentine and resin, while its bark makes it a perfect home for epiphytes. Now, look up into the branches of the trees, we can see many epiphytes. These plants live simpatico with their hosts and derive all their nutrients from the air. This is a particularly good environment for epiphytes because the canopy of the trees holds moisture and regulates the temperature, creating a microclimate. The resurrection fern has derived its name from the ability to live through droughts, when it turns gray and shrivels up. But when the rain starts to come down, it only takes a short time to spring back to life, turning bright green and unfurling its fronds. It is thought this amazing little plant can outlast 100-year drought. As you move into the swamp further, you will notice the swamp fern. This beautiful green leafy plant blankets the ground underneath the canopy of slash pines and cypress trees. It grows in shady, moist hammock areas. The fern blooms all year round, and the fronds can reach 4 feet in length. In the picture, you can also see a new fern leaf. It starts as a ball and slowly unfurls its leaves. There are many different types of cypress trees. Most are evergreen. However, the bald cypress and the pond cypress are deciduous, meaning they lose their leaves, not needles as some may think. Both trees have bulbous bases and perfectly straight trunks. The pond cypress is a smaller tree reaching 50 to 60 feet, while the bald cypress can reach a height of 150 feet. Pond cypress are slower growing trees that have been reported to live up to 1,200 years old. Both trees grow along rivers and in wetlands. They are excellent for soaking up the floodwaters and preventing erosion. They also trap pollutants and are breeding grounds for frogs, toads, and salamanders. Cypress knees, seen here, have been hypothesized to form many functions over the years, from aeration to stability. However, seeing as it takes close to 40 years to develop these knees, it is now the general consensus that they perform the function of stability, much like a squat tripod. Islands are formed when debris is caught between the knees and the tree. Over the years, with more and more natural debris, they are built up into small islands that then become home to animals and other plants. They reproduce from a round fruit that carries the seed floating, if need be, to find a semi-dry area to begin life.